The next king of shonen is Yomi no Tsugai. For those who know, it's pretty obvious, but for those who have no idea what I'm talking about, let me explain. Yomi no Tsugai might not seem like anything special. It's a supernatural action manga full of demons with a fish out of water teenage orphan protagonist seeking revenge. I know, completely original, right? Well, I probably would have written it off as generic and not even read it if I wasn't more informed. Is this the next king of shonen because it's so much better than any other manga out right now? Well, kinda. But the bigger reason I call it that is for one name, Hiromu Arakawa. If that name sounds at all familiar to you, and if the art style hasn't already given it away, let me point you to a little known series called
Fullmetal Alchemist
Brotherhood, if you watched the anime, which you most likely did. Anyway, let's do that fun transition thing. Woo. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the best rated anime of all time, sitting at number Bleach is at number 1. Not mad about that. Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, the second best rated anime of all time, that'll probably win the throne again as it always has. Now, I know it sounds like I'm fishing to anger Bleach fans, but I don't think it's actually very controversial to say Fullmetal probably will and should be number 1 again. I mean, it doesn't even have to be your favorite. It's not even mine, but I would define the king of shonen to be an anime everyone is okay with being at the very top. I love One Piece more, but I would be an idiot to recommend it to a non-anime fan over Fullmetal. And that's the sort of thing I mean. Everyone, and I do mean everyone, loves Fullmetal Alchemist. It's practically impossible to not love this show. It's got an incredible world, an interesting magic system, and a story that's so thematically rich you could write thousands of essays on it and still not have said everything there is to say. There isn't a single wasted second in Fullmetal. Everything is building towards the main narrative and central themes that you never feel bored experiencing it. All of this, along with having one of the best protagonists ever, from Edward to Alphonse to Mustang and more, makes Fullmetal Alchemist a flawless masterpiece. So yeah, it should be pretty easy to piece together why I'd say the manga written by the legendary author who wrote one of the best pieces of fiction ever made is most likely going to write the next masterpiece. Which brings us to Yomi no Tsugai. There are only 13 chapters as of this recording and the manga is released monthly, but each chapter is around 40 to 50 pages, which is roughly 2 to 3 chapters of a weekly manga if you didn't already know. It's actually released by Square Enix, which is weird, and you'd think it wouldn't count as shonen because of that, but you'd be wrong. Now, to properly talk about Yomi no Tsugai, I'm going to need to spoil a bit of the setup. Usually this wouldn't be the biggest deal, but trust me, going into it blind was so much fun and I really recommend giving it a shot. It'll hook you immediately. But before you decide that, please remember to subscribe to the channel so you can come back to this video when you do catch up, as it really does help us out. Now, let's get into Yomi no Tsugai. Yomi no Tsugai is set in your typical fantasy world with dragons, demons, and hunters. One of those hunters is a teenager, Yuru, who provides for and protects his home village. He's our protagonist, and it's really as standard as it can get. There's also a spry best friend who's no help whatsoever, an outsider merchant who provides simple goods, and an elder who runs the town. Your typical standard setup, one you'd expect from any small local village in any fantasy world, except for one small detail. The imprisonment of Yuru's twin sister, Asa. She's such a mystery most of the villagers aren't even allowed to see her. It's implied she's cursed, riddled with a strange affliction that prevents her from escaping her cage. Yuru speaks of exploring the world with his sister, but is also perfectly content living a simple life in the village for the rest of his days. The only bit of excitement and wonder to see being the trail of smoke left from a dragon who had just flown past. Or at least you would think so. See, it's not a dragon flying past the village that leaves that trail of smoke, but rather hunks of metal soaring through the air, or what people in the modern age might call planes and helicopters. Yeah, and before we even get the time to process it, we witness the slaughter of innocent villagers at the hands of people dressed in very non-fantastical gear. And these people aren't wielding a bow and arrow, they're wielding a pistol. And if you haven't caught on already, this isn't a fantasy world with dragons. This is the modern day with modern tech, and this village is a lie made up by the elder. And by this point, you wouldn't be insane to assume that there are no dragons, this isn't a fantasy world, and there are no demons. But that isn't entirely true. Demons, or better yet Tsugai, are the only thing in this chapter that aren't an absolute lie. Not even Yuru's sister is real. In fact, she's a figure constructed from the village elder's Tsugai, and that's why she wasn't allowed to be seen by others, because someone would probably figure it out if they did. The real Asa is actually the person behind the massacre, and the simple merchant from before is a really cool soldier from the modern world who visits to probably inform the village elder of any news below and keep an eye on Yuru. I'm going to stop there, but damn, there are so many insane twists in this one chapter alone, and as someone who's caught up, I really don't want to spoil any more than I already have. There's more to go over, but if that setup hasn't already piqued your interest, allow me to explain why you need to read it. Okay, I'll be the first to say I love everyone in this manga already. Yuru is such an amazing protagonist. It'd be so easy to write him off as a generic fish out of water character, but he's so much more than that. Yes, all of the modern age and tech stuff is new to him, but I love that his naivety in one area is balanced out by his proficiency in others, like hunting. Sure, demons and guns are alien to him, but his ability to take them down with nothing but arrows makes for a really satisfying underdog vibe. He never feels completely useless or too overpowered the way your isekai protagonist might. It's the perfect blend. Every win comes from his skill in hunting, and every loss comes from his lack of knowledge in the modern world. It's for this reason that he becomes so endearing so quickly. I really like that his naivety isn't because he's dumb, but because he obviously wouldn't know what a phone is. Dara, the merchant from before, is another amazing character and plays a semi-mentor role to Yuru. The best way I could describe him is that he's basically the ultimate bro. He's super charming and cool, but also capable in his own right. His chemistry with Yuru is off the charts, and it's really fun to see Dara try to explain modern tech and advancements to someone who basically lived the 1500s lifestyle up to this point. And another character I love but was not expecting to so quickly is Asa, Yuru's actual sister. She seems so villainous at first, but slowly unfolding more and more about her makes it really easy to understand why she does what she does. I don't want to say too much because I think this borders on spoiling past the setup, but I can't get enough of her and Yuru's dynamic. It's so weird and messed up, but also really damn cute, and man, can Arakawa write the best sibling dynamics. There are more characters to talk about, but I'd rather not keep repeating that they're all amazing and perfect and I want more of them all, because that's exactly how I feel. I love how Arakawa seems to have taken similar character personalities from Fullmetal and forged them into different people with different alliances. Obviously, Yuru and Asa heavily resemble Ed now visually, but also personality wise. Like Ed, Yuru is a hot-headed fierce fighter who's secretly a gentle soul, and like Ao, Asa is a highly sensitive, lonely kid who tries her best to cover it up. It's not a one-for-one comparison, but that's the point. The vibe is the important part. Everything else, like their beliefs and backgrounds, are different enough to make them entirely unique characters. I guess what I'm trying to say is that if you loved Fullmetal's characters, which you definitely did, then you're going to love Yomi no Sagai's. Something to really appreciate about this manga is that in spite of how dark and serious it can get at times, it never fails to make me laugh. I don't know how she does it so seamlessly, but at one moment I'm awing at something really cute, cheering at something really cool, and fidgeting around when things get tense, and the next I'm laughing at these amazing little jokes sprinkled throughout a chapter. I genuinely think there hasn't been a single chapter that hasn't made me laugh out loud. Obviously, I love seeing Yuru struggle to understand modern tech, but it's Dara's constant sarcasm and cockiness that's just so fun. Arakawa has really taken her time to make room for really fun character bonding moments, which is exactly how you make people fall in love with your characters. Like seriously, it's that easy. Just let them chill and talk and make jokes with each other, and eventually people will fall in love with them. Something else I really love about the comedy in Yomi no Sagai is that it knows when to let the jokes slide. I don't think anyone would have appreciated a joke during this scene, and I'm happy that we aren't getting it here either. I hate to compliment that, but I've seen so many shows recently that have done that exact same thing, and I'm just so sick of it. So yeah. And the last thing to compliment is the presentation. Yomi no Sagai doesn't feature my favorite art style, but it's a really pretty manga. It's simple, sure, but every character has their own unique quirks that make them instantly recognizable. They're relatively grounded, but the expressions and poses are always exaggerated enough to be readable. I feel like it really fits with the tone of the series altogether. It's fun and bubbly for the most part, but it can get really dark and gory when the more villainous Sagai come out to play. So yeah, it probably won't blow you away visually, but it still looks great, and I love the character designs, especially left and right. Honestly, I have no real concerns for this series. Everything I've wanted, it's given me. The only thing to be aware of is that we're barely even out of the setup. My love for this series is mostly from what I've read, but also from what I imagine this series is going to be. We're yet to get a moment as heartbreaking as Nina and Alexander, so don't go into it expecting to get that from the very beginning, which is the struggle with an established author returning. People think their new work is gonna immediately start start from a 10 in tension instead of slowly ramping up to that point. Because the last thing they saw from that author was at a 10 because, you know, that's what the end boss should be at. Don't get me wrong, Arakawa is most likely going to break all of our hearts again and I'm terrified of that. But just go into it expecting a lighter vibe. At least for the very beginning. So that's the video and everything I wanted to say in this relatively spoiler-free review of Yomi no Sagai. I hope it's convinced you to give it a shot as I think it's absolute gold and one of my favorite ongoing mangas out right now. So yeah, thanks for watching the video and if you liked it, please remember to subscribe as it really does help us out. If you've read the manga, what are your thoughts on it so far? Anything you absolutely love or even have issues with in particular? Let me know in the comments below and I'll see you guys next time. Thanks guys. Bye. Wait, is this technically an isekai? Oh, for fuck.